Hey everyone! Before I tell you this absolutely insane story that completely changed my life, I need you to do me a favor. If you're someone who believes that karma is real, that genuine love always wins over fake manipulation, and that sometimes the universe has the most incredible way of turning tables on people who try to use others, then you're going to love what I'm about to share with you. This story has twists that I still can't believe actually happened to me, moments that will make your jaw drop, and an ending that proves good people really do win in the end. So if you're ready for a story about how my own mother's greedy scheme backfired in the most spectacular way possible, hit that like button right now and make sure you subscribe, because I promise you've never heard anything like this before. Trust me, by the time I'm done telling you what happened, you'll understand why I say this is the craziest example of karma I've ever witnessed. The universe really does have a sense of justice, and sometimes it delivers it in ways you'd never expect. Now let me tell you how a billionaire became the father I never had, while my actual mother lost everything because she couldn't tell the difference between real love and a dollar sign. My name is Lily, and I'm 19 years old. 6 months ago, I was just another broke college student trying to figure out how to pay for my next semester. I lived with my mom, Diane, in a tiny apartment that always smelled like the industrial cleaning supplies she brought home from work. She'd been cleaning houses for rich people since I was little, and I watched her come home every night more bitter than the day before. My mom wasn't always angry, but poverty has a way of eating at people. She'd scrub million-dollar kitchens during the day, then come home to our broken microwave and leaky faucet. I'd catch her staring at the fancy cars and client driveways, her jaw clenched tight. "They don't deserve this more than we do," she'd mutter. "They just got lucky." But I knew it wasn't really about luck. It was about the choices that led us here, and the resentment that was slowly consuming her. I was working part-time at a campus bookstore, barely making enough for ramen noodles, when Mom got the call that changed everything. Her cleaning service assigned her to a new client, some reclusive billionaire who lived in what she described as a castle. Harrison Blackwood, she said his name was, made his fortune in tech, lived alone in this massive estate, and apparently paid triple the normal rate because he was so particular about his privacy. Mom came home from that first day with stars in her eyes, not because of the money, though that was nice. No, she'd done her research. Harrison Blackwood was 67, widowed, no children. "Do you know what this means?" she asked me, pacing around our cramped living room. I didn't, but I was about to find out. This man has more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes, and nobody to leave it to. He's lonely, Lily. I could see it in the way he moved through that big, empty house. She grabbed my hands, her eyes bright with something that made my stomach twist. "You're going to help me clean his house." I tried to protest. I had classes. I had my job. I barely had time to sleep. But Mom wasn't asking. "This is our chance," she said. "Our one shot at a different life. You're young, you're smart, you're beautiful. Men like him, they want someone who makes them feel alive again." Even then, I knew what she was suggesting was wrong. But we were 3 months behind on rent. I was eating cereal for dinner most nights, and my college fund consisted of whatever coins I could find in the couch cushions. So when Saturday came, I found myself standing in front of the biggest house I'd ever seen, holding a bucket of cleaning supplies and wondering how my mother's desperation was about to change both our lives forever. I just had no idea it would change them in ways neither of us saw coming. The first thing that hit me about Harrison Blackwood wasn't his wealth. It was how tired he looked. Here was this man who could buy anything in the world, standing in his marble foyer in an old sweater, looking like he hadn't slept in weeks. Mom immediately went into her fake sweet voice, the one she used with all her wealthy clients. But I could barely focus on her chatter because I was staring at his library, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves stretched as far as I could see, filled with first editions and classics I'd only dreamed of owning. While Mom scrubbed and schemed, I found myself drawn to a vintage chess set sitting by the window. "Do you play?" Harrison asked, appearing beside me so quietly I jumped. His voice was different from what I expected, softer, more curious than commanding. A little, I admitted. My dad taught me before he left. I don't know why I shared that. Maybe because Harrison looked like he understood what it meant to be alone. That's how it started. Mom would clean the downstairs while Harrison and I talked about books, played chess, debated philosophy. He told me about building his company from nothing, the mistakes he'd made, the wife he'd lost to cancer 10 years ago. I shared my dreams of becoming a teacher, my struggles with college debt, the way I felt guilty for wanting more than what we had. But Mom saw something else entirely. Every car ride home became a strategy session. Did you see how he looked at you when you laughed? You need to wear that blue dress next time. It brings out your eyes. And when he offers you coffee, say yes. Rich men love playing host. She'd coach me like I was preparing for an audition instead of just being myself. The worst part was how excited she got when Harrison started giving me small gifts. A book he thought I'd enjoy, a scarf when I mentioned being cold. This is it, Lily. He's falling for you. But these weren't romantic gestures. They were the actions of a lonely man who'd found someone who listened to his stories without dollar signs in her eyes. 3 months in, Mom's demands escalated. He invited you to that charity gala. You have to go. When I said I didn't have anything appropriate to wear, she emptied her savings account for a designer dress. When he asks you to travel with him, you say yes. When he wants to pay for your college, you let him. This is how the world works, Lily. But I couldn't do it. Every time I looked at Harrison, I saw a genuinely kind man who'd become my friend. The idea of manipulating his loneliness made me sick. I'm not going to use him, Mom, I finally said. Her face went cold. Then you're a fool. And when we're living on the streets because you were too proud to secure our future, remember that you chose this. I had no idea how right she was about choosing my future. I just didn't know what I was actually choosing. Everything changed on a Tuesday morning when Mom got the call. Harrison had collapsed in his study and was rushed to the hospital with a massive heart attack. While Mom saw dollar signs and opportunities, all I could think about was losing the one person who'd ever really listened to me. I ran to the hospital still wearing my pajamas. Harrison looked so small in that hospital bed, hooked up to machines that beeped constantly. The doctors said it was touch and go. I sat beside him for hours, reading aloud from his favorite Steinbeck novel, playing chess games on a magnetic board I'd brought from home. When he was awake, we talked. When he slept, I just stayed because I couldn't bear the thought of him waking up alone. But I wasn't the only one who showed up. Harrison's nephew Victor arrived with his wife Sandra, both dressed in expensive black, like they were already planning the funeral. They eyed me suspiciously, whispering in corners about who this girl thinks she is, and gold diggers who prey on vulnerable old men. It was disgusting how transparent they were about wanting Harrison gone. What shocked me was when Mom allied herself with them. I overheard her in the hospital cafeteria, laughing with Sandra about how young women know exactly what lonely old men need to hear. She called me her investment and bragged about how she'd delivered Harrison the perfect companion at exactly the right time. My blood went cold. All those months of coaching, of pushing me toward Harrison, of buying expensive dresses we couldn't afford. She really had been pimping me out. But the worst part was what Victor said next. Don't worry, when he's gone, we'll make sure you and your daughter are taken care of. Family looks out for family. They were planning Harrison's death like it was a business transaction. I confronted Mom that night. How could you do this to him? To me? But she just shrugged. Grow up, Lily. This is how the world works. The rich use the poor, so sometimes the poor have to use them back. Harrison's going to die anyway. At least this way we all benefit. The next day, Harrison was well enough to receive visitors. He seemed stronger, more alert. I was reading to him when I noticed Victor and Mom talking outside his door. They thought they were being quiet, but Harrison had always had sharp hearing. The girl's been perfect, Mom was saying. Sweet, innocent, just what he needed. She's got him wrapped around her finger. When the time comes, he'll leave her everything just to spite his real family. I watched Harrison's fade crumble. The trust in his eyes, the warmth I'd grown to love, died instantly. He looked at me like I was a stranger, like I was a predator. "Get out," he whispered. "Harrison, I didn't know. Get out." And just like that, I lost the best friend I'd ever had. The ride home from the hospital was the longest 20 minutes of my life. Mom kept talking about damage control and fixing this mess, but I couldn't hear her over the sound of my heart breaking. Harrison's face, when he looked at me, the betrayal, the disgust, it's burned into my memory forever. I moved out that night, grabbed my clothes, my textbooks, and the few things that mattered, and went to stay with my roommate Emma. Mom called me crying, then screaming, then crying again. "You're throwing away our future over some old man's hurt feelings. He'll get over it." But I knew he wouldn't. More importantly, I knew I couldn't get over what she'd done to both of us. The next few months were the hardest of my life. I picked up extra shifts at the bookstore, started tutoring high school kids for $20 an hour, sold plasma twice a week just to make rent. My grades suffered because I was working 60 hours a week, but I refused to ask Mom for help. She'd created this mess, and I was going to dig myself out of it alone. Every few weeks, I'd write Harrison a letter, not asking for forgiveness, not expecting anything back, just explaining what really happened. How I never knew about Mom's plan. How our friendship had meant everything to me. How sorry I was that her greed had destroyed something genuine. I'd mail them to his estate, never knowing if he even read them. Mom, meanwhile, was falling apart. The cleaning service fired her after Harrison complained about her unprofessional conduct. Other wealthy clients started dropping her too. Apparently, word spreads fast in rich circles. She had to take a job at a discount motel, making half what she used to earn. "This is your fault," she'd text me at 2 a.m. "We could have been set for life, but you had to be the moral one." I blocked her number after the fifth drunken voicemail about how I'd ruined everything. But the strangest thing was happening to me. Despite being broke, despite working myself to exhaustion, despite losing the person who'd become like a father to me, I felt free. For the first time in my life, I wasn't living under the weight of someone else's schemes and resentment. Every dollar I earned was mine. Every choice I made was mine. I graduated college with a 3.7 GPA, 2 jobs lined up, and 0 debt because I'd worked my ass off for every penny. Standing on that stage in my cap and gown, looking out at the crowd where Harrison should have been, I felt proud of what I'd accomplished alone. I had no idea that 6 months of silence were about to end with a phone call that would change everything again. Sometimes the universe waits until you prove you don't need saving before it decides to save you anyway. The call came on a Thursday evening while I was grading papers at my new teaching job. I almost didn't answer the unknown number, but something made me pick up. "Lily, it's Harrison." I dropped my red pen. After 8 months of silence, hearing his voice felt like a ghost calling from another life. My hands started shaking. "I owe you an apology," he said, his voice softer than I remembered. "I hired investigators to look into what really happened. I know about your mother's history now, the other wealthy clients she targeted, the patterns of manipulation. I know you were as much a victim as I was." Tears started streaming down my face. "Harrison, I'm so sorry. I never knew what she was planning. Our friendship was real for me. It was the most real thing in my life. I know that now," he said. "The investigators showed me your college transcripts, talked to your professors, your co-workers. They painted a picture of someone working 3 jobs to stay in school, someone who tutors kids for free when their families can't pay. That's not the behavior of a gold digger, Lily. That's the behavior of someone with genuine character." We talked for 2 hours. He told me how empty his house had felt without our chess games, how he'd actually read every letter I'd sent but had been too proud and hurt to respond. I told him about teaching, about finally feeling like I was making a difference in kids' lives, about how losing him had taught me the difference between people who love you for who you are and people who see you as a means to an end. "I need to tell you something," Harrison said near the end of our call. "I've rewritten my will." My nephew Victor and his wife won't be getting a penny. They made it clear they were just waiting for me to die. Your mother won't be getting anything either, obviously. My heart sank. I thought he was telling me this to make sure I knew not to expect anything. Instead, he continued, I'm establishing the Blackwood Education Foundation. It's going to provide scholarships and support for students like you, kids who deserve opportunities but can't afford them. And I want you to run it, Lily. I want you to be the director. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The foundation will pay you a generous salary, enough to live comfortably while helping thousands of other students. You'll never have to worry about money again, but more importantly, you'll be doing work that matters, work that changes lives. Through my tears, I managed to whisper, why? Because you're the daughter I never had, he said simply. Because you loved a lonely old man for who he was, not what he had. Because your mother's greed led me to the greatest gift of my life, you. Mom's scheme to use me had backfired, but in the most beautiful way possible. She got nothing. I got everything that mattered, a father, a purpose, and proof that genuine love always wins. And that's how my mother's gold-digging scheme gave me the most incredible father and changed my life forever. It's been 2 years since that phone call, and I still can't believe how perfectly karma worked its magic. The Blackwood Education Foundation has already helped over 500 students pay for college, and every scholarship we award feels like justice for every kid who's been told they don't deserve better. Harrison and I have dinner every Sunday now. He walks me down the aisle at my wedding next month. And yes, I met my fiancé at a foundation event. A teacher like me, who grew up poor and understands that love isn't about what someone can give you, but about who they are when no one's watching. Harrison jokes that he's finally getting the family he always wanted, just not the way anyone expected. As for my mother, she's still working at that discount motel, still bitter, still convinced that I threw away our one chance at wealth. She sends me angry messages sometimes, especially when she sees news articles about the foundation. But here's what she never understood. I did get wealthy, just not in the way she thought mattered. I wake up every morning in a job I love, helping kids who remind me of myself. I have a father who chose me not because we share DNA, but because we share values. I have a fiancé who fell in love with me when I was eating ramen for dinner and didn't care that I had holes in my shoes. That's wealth that can't be stolen, manipulated, or lost. The craziest part, if Mom had just been genuine from the beginning, if she'd let me be Harrison's friend without all the scheming, she probably would have been taken care of too. Harrison's generous with people who are real with him. But greed blinds people to the good things right in front of them. So if you're someone who's ever felt used, who's ever had family members try to manipulate your relationships for their own gain, who's ever wondered if being genuine is worth it in a world full of fake people, I hope my story gives you hope. The universe really does reward authenticity, even when it takes longer than the quick schemes and shortcuts. What did you think of this incredible turn of events? Have you ever experienced karma, this perfectly timed, in your own life? Drop your stories in the comments below. I read every single one, and some of you have shared things that absolutely blew my mind. If this story restored your faith that good people really do win in the end, smash that like button and share this with someone who needs to hear that being real is always worth it. And make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because I've got more unbelievable true stories coming that prove karma never forgets an address. Thanks for listening to my story. And remember, genuine love always wins over manipulation. Always.